So I started my career in 2008. Pretty simple. I was a 22-year-old kid. Thought I could really make it in the business world. I had just finished my first degree in criminology. Originally wanted to be a police officer. Did a couple of ride-alongs, found out that it wasn't for me, but I wanted to interact with the community at large and certainly network on the masses. So the good thing about policing is that you ultimately meet people at all times, and maybe they're not in the best mood. In real estate, you traditionally meet people and they're in the best mood because they're seeking from you advice as an expert in the field so that we can go to their dinner table and really work out the problems that they ultimately have. And that was kind of something that always was interesting to me, but was kind of the light to the end of the tunnel as to what I ultimately wanted to have as my day-to-day. A good time, be informative to people and be useful for people to gain the proper information about what they're trying to achieve or ultimately achieve as a goal in the future. So real estate being one of people's biggest assets or at least investments from a capital cost, I was excited to start the journey. 2008, I had purchased a home to flip from April till about September. We sold it in August for $374,000. We bought it for $248,000. I say we because at the time I almost 100% financed it. So I had in essence, a silent partner, but the principal thought was that I was graduating and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do as a career. I ended up determining early on that from my financial reports that my realtor was going to make about $17,000 from the transaction. He ended up making 21, and that was kind of money that was on the table that could be also kept in-house. And I could source as a realtor, as a licensed realtor, maybe or potentially my own deals, and keep that money not to myself per se, but that I could keep control of it. So I only made $35,000. If you do the taxes on that, it's 15%, and it takes out 6 months of your life from start to finish. And you can't buy unless you can buy many. You can only do one at a time. So you can only imagine that 35,000 less 15% in a corporation ends up for 6 months of the year not the best income. So the recession actually took us away from the idea that we would acquire and renovate. In hindsight, of course, I should have kept going, but I can't go back in time. So I was grateful that I could get the degree or the diploma or the educational requirements that I needed to become licensed as a realtor between the 4 months, because it took me about 4.5 months max from start to finish. And from that period on, I started in October, right after, about a month after the Lehman Brothers collapsed on my birthday, September 15th. So the recession was kind of unique. So in an industry which requires people reaching out to you and referrals and contacts, the phones weren't ringing in the offices. So my first hello to real estate was working in Orleans. I ultimately transitioned down to the downtown office, but that Orleans and downtown office for 6 months was pretty much empty, with a lot of people curious as to how this is going to play out for them. The average realtor at the time was 57 years old and in their second or third career. I was 22 years old, freshly graduated, continuing my education with a part-time format to finish my second degree in business, and the phones weren't ringing. So we needed to do some untraditional methods to obviously get my name out there. And when you are selling real estate and you live in your parents' basement, you also face some mental fears that and blocks that you need to work through to ensure that they know your end consumer knows that you're the best person for the job.